My boyfriend and I went traveling together. While having breakfast at the airport, Andrew was enjoying a steaming bowl of tofu pudding, but he brought me a can of expired date treasure porridge from home. After arriving at the hotel, he suggested we split the hotel cost equally. In the morning, I treated him to breakfast, so he would treat me for lunch and dinner. He also kindly said, "Emily, I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I know you are an independent woman, and you must like to keep accounts clear." I nodded, suggesting we each book our own rooms, stay separately, and split the meal costs based on what we ate. Andrew got angry when he heard this, questioning me, "You're counting too carefully. What kind of relationship is this?" I understood in my heart he wanted to have A and also C. How shameless. Before we set off, we each bought tickets for the same flight. "Let's meet at the airport." I arrived at the airport in the morning after checking in my luggage. Andrew also arrived. He only had a backpack. I saw that there was still plenty of time, so I suggested we have breakfast at the airport before going through security. After Andrew and I sat down in a restaurant, he started looking through the menu. "I would like a bowl of tofu pudding and a steamer of soup dumplings," I said. The waiter took my order and then looked at me. "Emily, what do you want to eat? I'll treat you," Andrew said generously. He paused for a moment and then added, "But we only need one steamer of dumplings. Remember you said you weren't very hungry in the morning. I'm not that hungry either." He held the menu in his hands, showing no intention of passing it to me. I didn't mind either. The restaurant's signature dish is century egg and lean meat congee, which is clearly written on the wall. "Then let's have a bowl of century egg and lean pork congee. Don't put any green onions in it," I said. Just as the waiter was about to take note, Andrew exclaimed, "A bowl of century egg and lean pork congee costs 28 yuan. Isn't that highway robbery?" I was taken aback, thinking to myself, the airport restaurant is indeed a bit more expensive than outside, but it's still somewhat reasonable. Andrew waved his hand at the waiter and said, "We only need a bowl of soy milk and a steamer of buns." The waiter rolled his eyes and walked away. I was confused and asked foolishly, "Then what will I drink?" Andrew excitedly took a can of 8 treasure porridge out of his backpack. He knew Emily liked porridge, so he specially brought this for her, so thoughtful. The porridge at the restaurant is quite expensive. If Emily likes it, I can personally cook porridge for her at her house in the future. Andrew kindly helped me open the can of 8 treasure porridge. He even handed me the spoon after bending it properly. Maybe I got up too early today. My head isn't fully awake yet, and I groggily took the spoon. Under his expectant gaze, I carefully took a sip. The porridge is icy cold and tastes overly sweet. It's really off-putting. Moreover, there's a strange flavor to it. Is this can of 8 treasure porridge spoiled? Why does it taste so strange? Andrew took a sip of the warm tofu pudding and then said, "No way, I specifically checked the expiration date before leaving. It just expired a month ago. It definitely hasn't gone bad." I looked at Andrew in disbelief. "You still haven't thrown it away even though it's expired and you brought it for me to eat." Andrew frowned slightly. "Throwing it away would be a waste. It's all food. So what if it's expired? As long as it's not broken, it's fine." The expiration dates printed on the packaging are completely unreliable. They're just meant to fool you young girls. What's the reasoning behind this? Wasting food is indeed wrong, but why does he get to enjoy hot tofu pudding while I have to eat expired date treasure porridge? I angrily threw my spoon on the table and stood up. "You can eat by yourself. I don't think we are suited for traveling together. I'm going home." I met Andrew through a blind date and we've only been in a relationship for less than 2 months. We usually get along quite well. There are no major conflicts. This today one-night trip was proposed by Andrew. I thought what I read online about trips testing relationships was true, so I agreed. But now, feeling my rumbling stomach, I'm filled with regret. If I had known, I would have just worked overtime at the company. Why bother coming out to face this? I walked up to the check-in counter and told the staff that I wanted to retrieve my luggage. The staff seemed a bit troubled and said, "Ma'am, your luggage is at the very back of the cargo hold. It will take some time to get it out, and it might delay the flight's departure. Are you sure you want to retrieve it? Is it really that troublesome?" Delaying the flight for personal reasons made me feel a bit uneasy. What if other passengers have urgent matters? As I was hesitating, Andrew caught up with me. He had a small bit of brown sauce at the corner of his mouth, and he said breathlessly, "Emily, it's all my fault. Please don't be angry, okay? You know my family doesn't have much. My mom never throws away expired things. I've been used to it since I was a child." I promised to take good care of you for the next 2 days. Can't we just not go home? Andrew's eyes were sincere. It felt like I was about to swear to the heavens at any moment. I recalled my mother's advice before I left, to cultivate my feelings with Andrew, so I decided to give him another chance. After getting off the plane, I retrieved my luggage. Andrew carried a bag, dragging my oversized suitcase, showing off his boyfriend's skills. I easily followed behind him, and the unpleasantness from the morning faded away. To be honest, over the past 2 months, Andrew has indeed been very caring. Upon arriving at the hotel lobby, Andrew took a few quick steps, leaving me behind. I said to the hotel receptionist, "Hello, we would like a room with a king-sized bed." I thought to myself, when did I ever say I wanted to share a room with him? Before I could react, the hotel receptionist smiled and replied, "Okay, sir, the standard king-sized room is 388 yuan per night. May I ask how many of you are checking in?" Wait a minute. Just as I walked to the front desk, Andrew pulled me aside. "Emily, why is this hotel so expensive?" The night before we set off, I had already sent him the travel guide. I patiently explained hotel prices are like this during holidays. This is already the best value I could find. Andrew took out his phone, tapped a few times and said, "Look at this hotel, it's not far from here and a room is only 100 yuan. I took a closer look and it turned out to be a shabby little inn. A narrow entrance, crumbling walls, and it even said the bathroom is shared. I twitched at the corner of my mouth. If you like it, go ahead and stay, but I can't compromise on my comfort when traveling. Andrew was still arguing. What's there to compromise about? It's just for sleeping at night. Seeing that I was slow to agree, he compromised and said, "All right then, staying at this place is fine, but we each have to cover our own expenses." I nodded, "No problem." Actually, I was planning to book a room for myself anyway. Andrew smiled and then said, "Emily, you transfer me 200 first, and I'll go book a room." "Wait a minute, let's book 2 rooms." Before I could finish my sentence, he interrupted me. "Also, I found that eating here isn't cheap either, so I suggest we each treat 1 meal. I'll cover breakfast and you can take care of lunch and dinner. If we get hungry at midnight, I'll treat you to a late-night snack." I was stunned. "Brother, you ate the tofu pudding and buns for breakfast yourself. Does that count as you treating me to a meal?" Andrew said confidently, "You ate the 8 treasure porridge I brought, and I paid for it." I was at a loss. How could he still bring up the 8 treasure porridge? Does he think a can of expired 8 treasure porridge can offset to large meals for lunch and dinner? As everyone knows, this city is famous for its seafood, and a casual meal costs at least 500 yuan. I only spent a few dollars on breakfast. Besides, Andrew knows I never eat late-night snacks. Moreover, he has ulterior motives, just wanting to book a room. This is clearly an attempt to take advantage of both sides, and he wants me to pay more for meals. This is really too much. Seeing me silent, Andrew started to flatter me. "Emily, I know you are an independent woman who dislikes taking advantage of others, and you definitely want to settle this clearly." I nodded. "It really should be calculated clearly. Why don't we each book our own rooms and stay separately? We can split the food costs evenly based on what we eat. I think this is more reasonable. What do you think?" Andrew was taken aback for a moment, then he angrily replied, "Isn't this being too meticulous? What kind of dating is this?" See, once he can't take advantage, he starts to get angry. I smiled slightly. "What are you so anxious about? Didn't you say you wanted to be clear about everything?" Andrew's tone softened and he began to comfort me. "Emily, it's not that I don't want to spend money on you. I'm just thinking about saving money for the future when we get married. I'll let you manage all this money." I pretended to understand him. "Oh, so you just want to save money and not take advantage of me?" Andrew nodded. "That's right. I knew Emily would understand me." "Then how about this? We stay at the small hotel you mentioned earlier, or we each get our own room. That way you only need to spend $100 to save some money, right?" Andrew's eyes widened. "How can that be?" I looked at him in confusion. "Why not? Isn't this a better way to save money, or do you insist on sharing a room with me?" Andrew immediately replied, "Of course I do. I spent over $1,000 on the plane ticket just to get you to travel with me. If you won't let me sleep with you, I might as well have spent that money on hiring a prostitute." Smack. I couldn't hold back and slapped Andrew. "Idiot," Andrew yelled. "What right do you have to hit me?" His voice attracted the attention of everyone in the hotel lobby. I wiped my hands with a tissue and said slowly, With your stingy attitude, you insist on sharing a room with me to take advantage of me, and you still want to split the room fee. This morning I received a can of expire-date treasure porridge, and yet he expects me to treat him to lunch and dinner. Just tell me directly that you want to sleep with me, and still want me to pay for it. I must say I have a bit of respect for your honesty. Now, I'm sorry we're officially breaking up. The people around us heard the news, and their eyes lit up. They started discussing it with their friends nearby. Andrew looks quite presentable, but I didn't expect him to be so stingy. Andrew cares a lot about his image. His face turned bright red, and he yelled, "I'm not stingy at all. I've seen through you. You're just a gold digger. If I don't spend money, you throw a tantrum and hit me." These few words successfully drew sympathetic looks from some men. I couldn't care less about that. Say whatever you want. Anyway, I won't be harmed by this. I walked straight to the front desk and handed over my ID card. "Hello, could you please book me a suite in room 888? I'm someone who is willing to spend money on myself. When traveling, of course I want to stay comfortably." The front desk lady was happily eating a snack, nodding eagerly and agreeing, "Okay, sure." I took the room key and waved at Andrew. "You wouldn't dare show everyone, will you?" And gritted his teeth and stomped his feet, angrily walking towards the hotel entrance. People around couldn't help but laugh. Although there was a small incident, traveling alone actually felt more comfortable. And next evening I returned home and found my mother wasn't there, probably out dancing in the square. After taking a shower, I covered myself with a blanket and started to catch up on sleep. In a daze, I heard voices coming from the living room, which woke me up. "Emily? It seems she hasn't come back yet." I was just about to call her back when I heard Andrew's annoying voice. "Emily and I had been dating for 2 months, and this time she refused to share a room with me. Is he out of his mind? How dare he come to my house and complain to my mother? I really wish my mother would give him a good scolding." But what my mother said next surprised me. "What good does it do to tell me this? You have to fight for this yourself, right? If she doesn't agree, why don't you try being a bit more assertive? Are you really a man?" HL ran through me. Other mothers teach their daughters to maintain their virtue, but I never expected my mom to encourage Andrew to pressure me. Although she often urges me to get married, but I really didn't expect her to say something like that. I threw off the blanket and hurriedly ran to the door, and suddenly opened the bedroom door. I shouted angrily, "Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? I've already broken up with him. He's just a jerk who wants to take advantage of me." A hint of embarrassment flashed across my mother's face, but soon she questioned me with confidence. "You ungrateful girl, you sneaked back home without telling me in advance. Who told you to break up? You're almost 26. If you don't get married soon, who will want you? Andrew is such a good man, how can you not cherish him? It's just living in the same room, right? He likes you and wants to get close to you." And nodded along and said seriously, "Auntie is right, Emily, I really like you. I don't agree with our breakup." My mother walked over, holding my arm, and advised me, "Emily, isn't it better to clarify any misunderstandings with Andrew? You've seen so many blind dates. How long do you want to keep choosing? Getting married sooner is good for you. How could your mother harm you?" I coldly pushed my mother's hand away and said bluntly, "Don't introduce me to any more men. If I want to marry, I'll marry. And if I don't want to marry, no one can force me." This statement made my mother's expression turn dark instantly. "You ungrateful girl, if you don't get married, are you planning to live in your brother's house for the rest of your life?" Her words shocked me. "What do you mean by my brother's house?" "That's my house. After graduating from university, I earned my first pot of gold in sales and paid the down payment to buy this apartment. My mother knows I live alone. She insisted on coming over to take care of me. Not long after, she wanted Tony, who is 2 years younger than me, to move in as well, but I refused several times. Tony dropped out of high school and is just wasting time in the countryside, relying entirely on my father to support him through farming. I have no fondness for this useless person who shares my blood. Unfortunately, my mother favors Tony, often secretly giving him allowances behind my back. Now, they are still thinking about getting me married, and then letting Tony take over my room. My mother looked furious, and she pushed me directly. "What good is what you bought? Everything in our house has to belong to Tony." I lost my balance and fell onto the bedroom floor. Andrew hurried over to help me. Concerned, he asked, "Did Emily hurt herself when she fell?" As I held onto my nightgun, trying to avoid exposure, I dodged his outstretched hand. At that moment, I heard the bedroom door being locked from the outside with a click. A triumphant voice from my mother came in. Andrew, the opportunity has come. You must seize it. Quickly make it happen and she can move in with you. Emily, Mom only wants what's best for you. If you don't get married soon, you'll miss the optimal childbearing age. A woman's value lies in her ability to bear children. What's the point of earning a lot of money? Your brother has found a girlfriend and now he wants a house. Once you move out, he can get married. At this moment, I didn't have time to refute her absurd claims, nor did I want to question her favoritism. I quickly stood up, stepped back a few paces, and wrapped myself tightly in the coat on the chair. Andrew took a few steps forward. His gaze was filled with greed and lewdness. Emily, look, even your mom supports me, so this is like a government-sanctioned affair, he said. I'm very skilled. I promise it won't hurt you. In fact, you'll enjoy it. His words made me feel utterly disgusted. I grabbed something from the desk and threw it at him. Andrew is 6 feet tall, weighing 150 pounds, standing in front of me, giving off a strong sense of oppression. You haven't experienced it, so you don't know the good of a man. Once we get married, your husband will make sure you can't get out of bed every day. He continued to say, Emily, I truly love you. If you love me too, then give yourself to me. I promise to give you my entire salary from now on, and we can have more children so you can quit your job and enjoy life at home. He went on persuading me for over 10 minutes, but I remain unwavering. What a joke. I earn $10,000 a month and have several thousand in performance bonuses at the end of the year. How could I possibly quit and stay home to raise kids? I certainly wouldn't consider living at home and having kids as a life of luxury. Smack. The wooden pen holder I threw hit him square on the forehead. Andrew clearly lost his patience and lunged directly at me. You asked for it. I quickly dodged, just in time to avoid him, but my phone fell to the ground, making a loud crash. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Andrew stopped chasing me, panting, with a nervous expression on his face. Another long minute passed and a gentle voice came through. We've received a report. Is there only you here? I heard my mother answer nervously. Yes, I'm the only one living here. At that moment, I felt utterly desperate. My tears flowed uncontrollably. I couldn't help but scream, help. I'm in the bedroom. Help. Only then did Andrew realize. His gaze fell to the floor. My phone screen was lit up, showing the emergency text message page for 12,110. He finally panicked. Under the pressure from the police, my mother opened the bedroom door. Andrew was restrained by the police. He still tried to explain. We were a couple, we're just having some fun. Just ask her mother if you don't believe me. We went on a trip a couple of days ago. She complained that I spent too little. That's why she called the police. My mother chimed in from the side, teasing me and Andrew. This girl even had you guys come over. I changed my clothes, washed my face. She rushed out and loudly interrupted her. We've already broken up. It's him who tried to rape me. You little brat, how dare you say such things, truly shameless. The police looked at me with sympathy. I helplessly tugged at the corner of my mouth, thinking who would have thought my own mother would side with a man I barely knew for a few months. Andrew's face turned red, angrily said, Is it really necessary? Just because I split the expenses with you, you're framing me like this. I snorted coldly and opened my phone. And the moment I opened the bedroom door, I turned on the recording function. I still have some technical skills, and Andrew's lewd laughter was clearly audible in the recording. He desperately reached out to try to knock my phone away. We were in a relationship. What's wrong with me sleeping with you? Isn't that reasonable? Does that mean I can't sleep with you without spending money? Then how are you any different from a prostitute? The police timely intervened, shouting, Don't move, be honest. You know the law? Forcing a woman to have sex is rape. Andrew, however, confidently said, I didn't even touch her hand and you guys just showed up. The young police officer pulled me aside and quietly asked if I was hurt. I shook my head. The police arrived in time and I also managed to escape quickly and didn't even touch my nightgun. If both your ex-boyfriend and your mother say, this is just playful behavior between couples, that would be very unfavorable for you. There's no evidence to prove he intended to rape. I suggest you resolve this privately and have him apologize and compensate you. I hesitated for a moment but ultimately had to admit the police had a point. I could only use the mess in the bedroom as an excuse to demand and repay me 10,000 yuan and a handwritten apology letter. When Andrew transferred the 10,000 yuan to me, he had a pained expression on his face, as if it were eating into his flesh, which made me feel a bit better. The police also warned him not to harass me again. Before leaving, Andrew shot me a fierce glare. I silently mouthed, "Idiot." As the farce came to an end, I still had household matters to deal with. My mother still firmly believes she did nothing wrong. I raised you this big, and you refused to marry anyone, and now it has come to this. She said, "Andrew is so good, what exactly are you dissatisfied with?" I looked at this person who once supported me, but at this moment betrayed me while I was hurt, and coldly said, "Stop feeling so good about yourself. You raised me, just to have a son without blood ties." No matter how bad those unmarried men are in her eyes, they're all good people. And no matter how well I treat her, as long as I don't get married, I become worthless. I'll give you one day to pack your things and leave my house. I won't give my house to anyone. My mother looked confused, as if she were hearing something absurd. Women are meant to rely on men. Isn't it a bargain for your in-laws if you get married with a house? And he's your own brother. In the future, if you face difficulties at your in-laws, Tony will stand up for you. My mom is doing this for your own good. Why can't you understand my good intentions? Your brother has no house. How can he get married and carry on the Warner family line? Don't become a sinner in the Warner family. I couldn't help but laugh, living on my own. There's really no need for Tony's weak and incompetent support. He wants a house to get married, he should earn it himself. I'm just a sister. There's no need for me to act like his mother. You usually use the pocket money I give you to secretly support him. I turned a blind eye to that. Now he even wants to take my house. What a thick-skinned person. I just got back from traveling. My suitcase isn't even unpacked, so I just threw some essentials back in. Tonight I plan to stay at a hotel. I really can't stand living under the same roof as my mother. I hope by this time tomorrow, you will have moved out. Since you missed Oni so much, why not go back to the countryside to take care of him? The house I bought with a loan is over 80 square meters with 2 bedrooms and a living room. If it weren't for my mother insisting on living here, I would have rented it out. I was assigned a loft or a 1-bedroom apartment close to the company. Then I rented this house to a family of 3, using the rent to pay off the mortgage, and I could save on commuting costs. Seeing that I was about to leave, my mother grabbed me, repeatedly saying some frustrating things. I coldly shrugged her off, thinking to myself, after all, she gave birth to me, don't push me to take action. The next day, I took a day off from work, found a loft I liked, and also listed my own house for rent. The rent was slightly below market price, with the only requirement being that the tenant must have some capability. After my mother returned to the countryside, Tony would definitely come knocking, no doubt about it. In the evening, I returned home, only to find my mother busy cooking dinner. She practically treated my words as if they were just the wind passing by. I hardened my heart and started packing her clothes and shoes. Pack up all those health products that scammed her money, and throw them into the taxi waiting downstairs. My mother couldn't stop me, crying pitifully at the door, shouting, "You ungrateful daughter. I raised you for so long and you actually want to kick me out." The neighbors around also peeked out. I responded loudly, "You're trying to find a man to violate me. Why should I still be filial to you? This is my own house, and you want to give it to someone else. Do you expect me to just swallow my anger?" My mother covered her face, looking somewhat at a loss, afraid to cry. "You really have no shame to dare bring this up." I sneered coldly, mockery surging in my heart. "Trying to threaten me this way? No way. I've lived here for a year. I leave early and come back late every day, busy with work, not even knowing my neighbors. I don't care at all about what these strangers think of me." I moved everything out completely, changed the password to the front door, and told my mother that I've already paid for the taxi downstairs. If you don't leave, you'll either end up on the streets tonight or have to go back to the countryside by yourself. Seeing my resolute attitude, my mother eventually got into the car obediently. It cost 300 yuan to take a taxi from here to our hometown. Spending this 300 yuan to send her off is truly a bargain. A few days later, Tony indeed came over with my mother to cause trouble. I saw on the surveillance at the door that he even brought a locksmith. My mother babbled for a long time. He actually transferred 1,000 yuan to the locksmith on the spot. And that locksmith surprisingly let them in without verifying their identity, just like that. Just as the 3 of them were busy at the door suddenly opened by itself. A burly man asked in a low voice, "Who are you and why are you opening my door?" We caught a thief. The locksmith, seeing the situation was bad, immediately slipped away. My mother was a bit nervous, stammering that she was the homeowner's mother. At that moment, my phone kept ringing. I decisively hung up, seeing my mother on the monitor looking as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. That Guidoni still wanted to confront them head-on, probably thinking he could make some money even if he got beaten up. Unexpectedly, an elderly lady with a cane, a child about 7 or 8 years old, walked out of the house. It was truly astonishing. In the end, my mother gave the tatted man 1,000 yuan as compensation, and then left helplessly. I immediately wrote a glowing review for the rental agency. This tenant really surprised me. I didn't expect to see Andrew again. That day, I was verifying client information when my colleague Sarah returned from lunch and patted me on the shoulder. "Your boyfriend is waiting for you downstairs. Why aren't you answering his calls?" I had already blocked all of Andrew's contact information. Walking to the window, I saw Andrew standing downstairs, holding a living creature in his arms. When he saw someone coming out of the office building, he approached and asked if they knew Emily Warner. "This guy is really crazy. He can't harass me, so he goes to bother my colleagues instead." I hurried downstairs, wondering what he was up to. "Excuse me, do you know Emily?" Before Andrew could finish his sentence, he saw me and his eyes lit up immediately. Emily, are you feeling better now? I brought a gift to apologize to you." He was holding a fluffy little cow cat in his arms. "It's just so adorable. You said before that you wanted to have a cat. Look how cute it is." I took a deep breath and shouted angrily, "I broke up with you. It's over. How many times do I have to say it for you to understand? Back then, when I said I wanted to have a cat, you said it was better to spend the money on cigarettes than on cat food, and now you're pretending to be a good person." Andrew's face showed bitterness. He said nonchalantly, "Emily, I've reflected seriously during this time. Give me one more chance. I didn't even know you could get a year-end bonus of several $100,000 and that you bought the house you live in yourself. I heard about this a few days ago and it gave me an idea. When we get married in the future, I won't let you quit your job since you like working. Just keep doing it. At that time, I'll be at home taking care of the kids. Being a full-time dad, we will definitely be a happy family of 5. But when I calm down, I can't help but laugh inside. You really have some thick skin. Who are you talking about? A family of 5 as a full-time dad? Don't you just want to rely on me to support you? I think you realized you can't find another girl. That's why you came back to me." When I was dating Andrew, he would even split a $4 lemonade with me, claiming it was to save money to marry me. Which girl can endure such penny pinching in a relationship? At that time, I was so pressured by my mom to get married. I thought, although Andrew is a bit stingy, he's not bad looking, and there's no loss in dating. Besides, I don't lack money. Splitting costs is fine. But then, some bizarre things happened. At this moment, Andrew's face showed an expression of embarrassment from being exposed. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him anymore, so I directly made a harsh statement. "If you harass me again, I will send the recording and the apology letter to your company's boss." After I finished speaking, I didn't wait for his response and turned around to head back to the office. As soon as I walked in, Sarah came over to me. "Oh, Emily, why are you so harsh on your boyfriend? It makes him look so wronged. Men care about their pride. If you don't give him face outside, he will eventually cheat." She continued, "I remember your boyfriend used to bring you breakfast every day. Why don't we see him anymore? Andrew is really good at those free gestures of care." I replied, "The breakfast he brought me was for buns and a cup of soy milk, and in the end I still had to transfer in 15 yuan. Most of the time I only eat 1 bun and a cup of soy milk. The rest is eaten by Andrew. With his stingy personality, how could he not take advantage of a free breakfast? I don't want to explain much. I'll just say, I've broken up with him." Sarah was left speechless in surprise. It's rare to find such a good boyfriend these days. Don't always throw tantrums. You always deal with male clients. It's already good enough to find a man who doesn't mind you. Don't neglect men just because you're doing well at work. Women ultimately need to return to the family. I sense a hint of a doting wife. Sarah always likes to sarcastically suggest my achievements are dubious, almost implying that I sleep with clients. But fortunately, most people in our company are quite normal. Everyone sees how hard I work, and no one pays attention to her boring remarks. secure contracts. I even help clients pick up their kids from school every day and accompany clients' parents for health checkups every day of the year. I haven't taken a single day off. I raised my eyebrows and told her, you should go after someone who enjoys being a pampered wife. I'm working so hard not to return to a domestic life in the future. Sarah's face turned slightly red and she hurriedly defended herself. I don't want to take someone else's lance. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her anymore. Sarah stood by the window for a while, then went downstairs for a stroll, and when she came back, she asked her supervisor for the afternoon off. That evening, I was lying in bed scrolling through a video app. Suddenly I saw a video from the same city. An aunt selling cats was complaining loudly about how a big boy wanted to return a cat after buying it. You think my cat was just for you to play with for 2 days and then return for a refund? At that moment, a male voice that hadn't shown up responded, if you don't refund, if you don't back down, I'll report you for not having a business license. Why does that voice sound so much like Andrew? I took a closer look. The kitten being returned in the video was actually a long-haired little cow. The little cow cat was completely unaware of this, being held by Andrew in a distressed manner, shaking back and forth, which made me feel really upset. In the end, the old lady compromised, refunded the money, and held the kitten with a pained expression. As the scene shifted, there was a woman next to Andrew whose profile looked a lot like Sarah. Feeling sorry for the kitten, I couldn't sleep a wink last night and arrived late to work the next day. As soon as I got to the office, I saw my colleagues gathered together gossiping. I walked over and asked, "What are you talking about?" My colleagues all turned to look at me, and Jack held up his phone to show me a local video. It turned out to be footage of Andrew from yesterday, right outside my office. In the video, Andrew was holding the kitten, looking utterly distressed. And I was shouting at him, "I broke up with you." It seemed like I was making a scene, while Andrew looked like he was enduring humiliation. This video is very popular, and there are many comments, most of which are cursing me, and some seem to be comments from Andrew and Sarah themselves. My girlfriend wanted to break up because I didn't want to spend money on her while I was traveling, so I bought her the kitten. She wanted to appease her, but she complained that it wasn't a purebred cat and even shouted at me to get lost. For this past month, I'd been planning to live on steamed buns and pickled vegetables, saving money to buy her a purebred cat. That girl works at our company, and her boyfriend brings her breakfast every day, taking care of her, but she still dumped him for money. By the way, this girl is the sales champion at our company. Probably because she's been dating wealthy older men, she looks down on those grounded good men. I'm so angry I could shake. It seems I've been too soft-hearted towards Andrew, which has allowed him to turn right and wrong upside down. And Sarah, this brainless, spoiled wife, spreads rumors about me at will. It's truly frustrating. I looked up at Sarah's workstation. She was sitting there with a smug look on her face, listening to colleagues discuss my situation. I strode over, grabbing her collar with one hand and slapped her twice hard with the other. Slap. Slap. Sarah's face instantly turned red and swollen. She screamed, "Why did you hit me? I'm going to call the police. I'm going to sue you." I smiled slightly. "When did I ever hit you? Clearly it was you who hit my hand." Sarah continued to scream, "With so many people in the company as witnesses, how dare you turn right and wrong upside down?" Jack chuckled behind me, "I will testify. I saw you hit Emily's hand with your face. The force was quite strong." Sarah was so angry her face turned pale. Other colleagues chimed in, "Yeah, who would have thought Sarah was so fierce?" Emily's palm turned red. "Oh, Emily is just too nice and always gets bullied." That Sarah was crying hard. "How can you turn black and white upside down?" I checked the surveillance footage. A cleaning lady quietly stood in the corner and unplugged the surveillance camera. "Oh no, we can't watch it anymore." The company was filled with a joyful atmosphere. I couldn't help but laugh too. Sales really requires talent. Not everyone can do it well. With the current economic downturn, finding a job has become difficult, and many colleagues in the company are not actually suited for sales. They don't dare to resign, they are introverted, and haven't signed a single deal in a month. Whenever I see my colleagues underperforming, I always take the initiative to pass some small orders to them, and everyone is grateful to me. Even Sarah received my help, but she maliciously slandered me online. What an ungrateful ingrate. Do you now feel the helplessness of being wronged? This is the price you pay for slandering me online. I will suggest to the boss later to fire the colleague with the worst performance this month. Sarah, pack your things and get ready to leave. Sarah gritted her teeth, angrily responding, "You can't threaten me. Let me tell you, I'm already dating Andrew. He said I won't need to work in the future, he will support me." Hearing this made me even happier. Sarah believes he will support her. It means that a man should be responsible for earning a living, while she only needs to stay beautiful. However, when Andrew said he would support her, he probably meant giving her $1,000 for living expenses each month, and she would have to save $800 of it. It seems Sarah's good luck is still ahead of her. After venting my anger towards Sarah, I still have to deal with Andrew. What makes the bullet fly for a while is that revenge is more satisfying. Impatient people can't stand such delays. I need to clarify the rumors quickly. Netizens and those unfamiliar friends actually don't care about the truth at all. They just want to watch, to see the excitement, and add some fun to their boring lives. If I clarify after the rumors have taken hold, even if they know I'm right, they will still treat my matters as gossip. I must, before that, seize their attention with an even more explosive truth. So I went to the security room to retrieve the complete surveillance footage of him from that day, outside our company building, along with the apology letter handwritten by Andrew and the recording of the attempted rape. There are also the bills from our split expenses when we were together and all the transfer records I sent him. And the video of Andrew trying to return the cat after his attempt to reconcile failed. I compiled all of this into a long video, detailing the ins and outs of the situation. I removed Andrew's name and face, but mentioned the company he works for and his surname, ensuring that everyone who knows him can recognize who I'm talking about. I also added some heat to the video. The comments section immediately shifted. Everyone said the girl had bad luck in choosing people, that after only 2 months of dating he tried to force her. Such scum is truly rare. No wonder this guy brings his girlfriend breakfast every day. It turns out she's the one paying for it. I'm dying of laughter. He wants to split even on these $3 or $4 things and still calls others gold diggers. Am I the only one who feels sorry for that little cat? I thought I had a home, but instead I was treated as a tool, and in the end I was returned. Huh? Isn't this our company? This voice sounds like Miller. Soon the man in the video was identified as Andrew. Andrew's company places great importance on corporate culture and image, with most clients being women. This video quickly sparked heated discussions, and calls for Andrew's dismissal grew louder. Days later, Sarah packed her desk, holding a large box, and announced that she was resigning. She glared at me fiercely as if to say, "Are you satisfied now?" and lost his job because of you and is going back home. In an instant her expression changed to one of happiness. The shift was astonishing. "I also want to go back home with Andrew, I'm pregnant." Andrew said I should go back and enjoy life in peace. His mother will take good care of me. Seeing the look of bliss on her face, I sincerely wished her well, wishing you happiness. A woman's greatest sorrow is entrusting her fate to others. I hope she realizes this soon. Even though Sarah resigned, she still kept her colleagues' WeChat contacts. At first, she updated her moments very infrequently, once every few days. The content either mentioned the delicious food Andrew's mom prepared for her, or talked about how good Andrew was to her. Just a can of 8 treasure porridge could make her smile from ear to ear. Her husband often says that the milk tea outside is unhealthy. It's about the same as porridge. Better to drink 8 treasure porridge at home. I zoomed in on the picture to check the expiration date, and it didn't disappoint me. It was already expired. It looks like it's from the same batch as my can of 8 treasure porridge. I really don't understand how they have so many expire date treasure porridges. Could it be leftovers from visiting relatives during the new year? I feel worried for the child in her belly. Months later, she finally gave birth to a daughter. That day, she posted on social media. Her husband thinks their daughter is great, calling her a little cotton padded jacket, and she thanked her husband for not being biased against girls. She had a severe tear during childbirth, which made her fearful of getting pregnant again. Gradually, Sarah's social media updates became more frequent, and her tone grew increasingly resentful. She started complaining that Andrew's mom was stingy, not letting her eat meat, while Andrew said she was as fat as a pig, not giving her money to buy new clothes. Every late night she always posted emo captions, full of regret. On the day of delivery she prayed to the heavens in her friend's circle, pleading to definitely have a son. Later I understood why Andrew knowing he is stingy and that women dislike him, wouldn't even pretend to be different while dating. Because he was selecting his partner, he wanted to exclude those strong, clear-headed women and find a silly woman willing to indulge him while dating. Once the silly woman married him, becoming his pampered wife, he could treat her however he wanted. Later I heard Sarah had 3 daughters, but her marriage was unbearable and it became intolerable. One day she ran off to another city to work alone, planning to separate for 2 years before filing for divorce. She paid a painful price for this, but ultimately came to her senses. Meanwhile, Andrew's mother fell ill from exhaustion while taking care of the 3 children. Often lying in bed unable to get up, Andrew had to switch his job to delivering food, so he could have more time to take care of his mother and 3 children. His dream of a family of 5 finally came true, living on 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month to support a family of 5. Andrew's appearance quickly became haggard. A former colleague happened to see him and remarked that he now looked like a thin old man. My life is going relatively well, however, my mother and their lives are quite difficult. My mother has tried all sorts of ways to ask for my help, but other than giving her 1,000 yuan in support every month, I don't want to get involved in anything else. I heard from relatives that Tony was causing a stir over wanting a house in the city for his marriage. It was quite a commotion. Later, my sister-in-law got pregnant, and my father and mother finally decided to sell the house in our hometown to buy a down payment for Tony's 2-bedroom apartment in the city. It was originally agreed that Tony would repay the loan himself, but he always loafs around, unable to hold a job for more than 2 or 3 days before getting fired. In desperation, my parents are nearly 60, yet they still have to go out to work and pay off loans. As a result, Tony and my sister-in-law are at home playing games in peace. After my parents come home from work, they still have to cook and do laundry for them. Hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer. They brought this upon themselves. Relatives mention that the old couple has recently been borrowing money everywhere, claiming they can't work due to a back injury, and their mortgage payments are about to default. I thought about it for a moment and decided to send them an extra 1,000 yuan this month for medical expenses. As for whether Tony will take them to the hospital, I'm not too concerned. When my parents are sick, I provide the money, and Tony provides the effort. Tony outputs. This way of sharing isn't unfair, right? By the end of the conversation, my relatives subtly advised me I'm not getting any younger, and I should consider getting married and having children. I smiled faintly. Each generation has its own blessings, and I can still enjoy life without children. My happiness doesn't need your concern. When the right time comes, everything will naturally fall into place. After hanging up the phone, a fluffy little cow gets snuggled up to me, lying on the ground and exposing its belly while meowing, as if to say, "Mom hasn't petted me for 3 minutes, I'm so wronged." That day, I specifically went to find the lady selling cats. When I arrived at the stall, the little cow cat was curled up in the cage looking listless. The lady selling cats told me this kitten had been bought and returned, and now it was very depressed, spending all day looking so downcast. Seeing this, the surrounding customers, everyone thinks it's a sick cat and they don't dare to buy it. I bought a little calf and brought it home without hesitation. This world is really chaotic. The kitten is scratching everywhere, it's all their fault. NIU, you've ruined mommy's genuine leather sofa again. You can't sleep in bed tonight. Meow meow meow.